next guest is the principal of Wahkohtowin School, Pete Chief. As many of you know, the school was formerly called Confederation School. But last year, the name was changed to Wahkohtowin, a Cree word meaning relations, relationships, being related. Good day, Principal Chief. How are you?
Good. Motenato.
Well, that's good. So maybe what's the story behind the changing of the school's name? Maybe if you could tell us a bit about that.
So I believe it was my second year here at formerly Confederation Park School. At that year, it was our 10-year anniversary of having the Cree language culture program at Confederation Park. So, so prior to that, I was at a different school, and so being the only, I guess, Cree speaking administrator in Saskatoon, they had asked if I wanted to be a part of the Cree language culture program. So I agreed and I came, not knowing that there was this milestone or this 10-year anniversary was coming up the following year. So at that time, my admin partner asked me that we need to have a celebration, and not just a celebration of the 10 years of having the Cree language culture program within Saskatoon Public School Division, but we need to also do something in regards to reconciliation. We were one of the first schools to actually have the Treaty 6 flag fly in front of the school. And so we did that alongside with the celebration of the Cree language culture program. It was at that celebration that a reporter asked me about, has there been any thought around changing the name of the school? And so the conversation started. And so I basically just answered, I think nobody's really brought up the idea of changing the name of the school. And at that time, too, I thought maybe there would be this long process as to of changing the name of a building, of a school. Mm-hmm. So it kind of stayed there. That's where the conversation started, and it just didn't really go anywhere beyond. So 2 years later, the conversation began again, and this time it was because the program was expanding. We were seeing an enrollment in our students and even in the program. So the program was now expanding to grade 6, grade 7, into the middle years, grade 8. And so that's when the conversation started again with a parent. Also, I brought it up with some of our senior admin, in particular one former director. We talked about the possibility of changing the name of the school and said it was doable. And there was a procedure in our admin procedures manual, and it took a couple of years to finally get to be where we're at.
So why don't you tell me a bit about the program at your school? It sounds really exciting.
So back then, 15 plus years ago, it was started by the partnership of Saskatoon Tribal Council. Mm. And so there has been conversations about starting a Cree immersion program within Saskatoon Public School Division. They did a call out for teachers, and shortly thereafter, they started the program with a kindergarten class. If I remember correctly, they started looking at the Cree immersion program that was started in Nauni Lake Cree Nation. Our division went and looked at some of the work that they were doing, and then came back, and then the program began. But because it was started with only the kindergarten class, they couldn't really call it an immersion class, because in order to be immersion, everyone in the entire building needs to be speaking fluently in the language. So that's what they had called it, a bilingual, bicultural program. After that 10th anniversary, that I seen the shift in the community in Saskatoon, where parents began really wanting their children to learn to speak the language and the culture. And so, yeah, that's when we've seen the increase in enrollment. We're well over, just under 300 right now as far as Cree language enrollment. Not only do they come to a program where they're being taught the culture and the language, but also to hear, to hear us adults that are in this building that are fluent speakers, to hear us speak the language. It's powerful. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, I've been to your school a couple of times, and let me tell you, there's nothing more warming the heart when you see our little brothers and sisters, in kindergarten, but even the older ones speaking Cree, and then of course your grade 8 class.
Yeah,
it's deciphered that Cree syllabics.
Yeah,
what a wonderful thing that. So how does that fit in with the Cree language? That is it. I've heard that when you know the Cree syllabics, it's easier for you to understand Crees. What's your opinion about that?
When I was a Cree teacher, that was one of the things that, again, trying to figure out what is the best method to teaching language, because each symbol is a sound. The children actually pronounce the words, they would pronounce them correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're teaching them the Roman orthography, which is your alphabet,
yeah,
that's where children start to get mixed up in the pronunciation. In the Cree Roman orthography, in the Cree alphabet, there are 4 consonants that sound differently than in the English alphabet. So in those 4 consonants are C, P, K, and T. So that's why sometimes you hear students mispronouncing words. Whereas if you taught them the syllabics, they recognize that symbol is this sound, pa or ta or ka or cha. Back then I taught syllabics when I was a language teacher at Westmount way back when. And kids picked up and pronounced words a lot better than they would if you were teaching standard Roman orthography. The methods that we primarily use are Dr. Gray Morning, the Accelerated Second Language Acquisition method.
Yes.
And then also TPR, so total physical response, and also with syllabics.
That's in my Birchburg basket list, is to learn the 2 languages. Just a couple more questions. It's kind of, I don't know if the word is irony that your school is located on John A. McDonald Drive. And
yeah.
I'm just wondering, how has the community responded to the name change?
Well, they responded well. Of course, when it was first announced in the news, I guess there were some negative comments towards the name change. However, I don't think those comments came from the community. The only thing that I did hear is, what about the street name, right? Like, as you said, John A. McDonald Road. Is there any talk about that? And I said, well, that's at the city level. That's not at our school level, or that has to come from the community.
So could you elaborate on that process of engaging your community and the elders and stuff like that?
When we started this process on changing the name of the school, I wanted to get the advice of our elders. We do have elders that we use that always help us and support us in a lot of things, in a lot of ceremonies and things we do at school. So I wanted to utilize them. And so I met with them numerous times before we went ahead to proceed with the name change. And one of the things that I was getting, as well as some feedback from our division, was getting the voice of students, which was important as well. So we did that. Then at the one particular meeting, we began talking about what this is going to mean for our community, for our children, the families that come to this school. And so it's going to have a huge impact on these children, is what the elders were talking about and what they felt. And so they said, because of that, just like how we as First Nations people, or as Neheo, how we as Cree people get our Cree names, our traditional names, we should do this the same way. I mean, make sure that whatever name is chosen has been spoken over. A big dig is what they had said. It's almost like the blessing of the name. So they said, would you be able to go home? And I'm originally from Onion Lake. And they asked me, would you be able to go home and do that? And I said, I could. I said, I can and I will. And so I went home and I went and, to a ceremony with my uncle, by uncles, and then it was there that the name came to us, I'll say. So I didn't go there with any particular suggestions or anything, but the name came from there, and then it kind of worked out exactly what some of the ideas were from the students, and then what the elders thought about the potential name of this. And so when I brought it forward to them, I said, this is the name that was given. They automatically, it was agreed upon. And not only that, because of the work that we do here, the philosophy around what the school and the work that we do for the students. And it was, Wahkohtowin, when you think about that name, it just doesn't mean about relations. It doesn't mean about human relations or kinship. It also talks about knowing who they are and knowing who their relations are. I'll briefly tell you the story that was told to me in regards to this name. My late grandfather told a story about how we have to make sure to teach our children about their relations. And I'm not talking about their human relations, but they need to know about relations are when they leave, when they go outside. So, and this is where this whole idea about land-based education came from. Making sure that children understand what this plant is, what are those birds, what are the animals, and how they're related to. Those are your relations. And you take our children outside and teach them about Mother Earth, then in a sense, those are those relations that are going to start directing them, knowing who they are. People ask me, are students fluent in the language? And I said, no, they're not fluent in speaking Cree. They speak Cree, but they're not fluent, but they're certainly fluent in knowing who they are. Children need to feel proud of who they are, and then that's where they'll start learning. They'll know, this is my language. This is who I am, and I need to now learn this language. Yeah, and so that's what we do, and I'm really, I'm just really, again, just proud to be working for, to be placed here, to be again that come to work each and every day, and I start the day off always with my Cree word of the day. I always greet the students in Cree language every morning, and then I always start off with Cree word of the day, and it feels good.
Well, I must say that I've learned a lot today from you, and I appreciate that. And this school is a tribute to you and all of the great administrators and teachers in that. It is such a good thing for Saskatoon and for our community and the Cree culture. Keep up the great work, and we'll come and visit you, and hopefully we'll do a ceremony together in the near future. And thank you for everything that you shared with us today.
Yeah, I can ask him. No.
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás?